What's up, nerds? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about a hot topic in the bass fishing industry, and that is copying. Is it the biggest problem in the bass industry? I don't know. Some people would argue it's forward-facing sonar. We would argue maybe it's like toxicity of our community. It could be littering as well and polluting our waters. Littering and that was a big one. Actually, people called that out on our toxic bass fishing, and I was like, we didn't cover that. So obviously there's a lot of problems plaguing the industry. It is what it is, and this is probably true across the board with all hobbies and different
If there's
things.
people involved, it's gonna suck.
People suck. All right.
We're the worst.
But one issue that plagues this industry that we want to talk about in this video right here is copying baits. And what that does is it really just stalls innovation, which is a bit frustrating. It's like, okay, now this brand has a bait that I like, and now this brand has that same bait that I liked, just a different brand, but it's not new. It's not really different. There may be subtle changes to it. So what we want to talk about in this video ultimately is like, is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? What are the pros and cons, right? Because we don't want to just keep making videos where it's just so black and white. We're like, this is absolutely wrong. This is absolutely right, whatever. We want you guys to decide that. You let us know your opinions in the comments. We'll let you know our thoughts on kind of what we see. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 what we believe are like egregious examples.
That's the word I was going to use, is egregious. Yeah.
Egregious is a fun word to use.
It's accurate too.
We should all use egregious more often in our daily vocabulary. Take that to the bank. So we'll talk through these 6 examples. We'll talk about what we believe maybe potentially are some pros.
Which sounds, okay, but this sounds
bad.
weird. It's like, you stole someone else's design.
How could there be any pros?
Where would the pro possibly be? We'll talk about that a little bit and talk about maybe some of the inevitability of this as well, because that is the argument that a lot of people make is, it's inevitable, someone's gonna steal it, which I think is a crap argument, but it's an argument that people make. So
it's like the music industry. Like every bar has been sung. Like everything has already been created. You can't create new, you can only combine in new ways. Maybe, like that's the argument.
We'll get to it, but we want to show you these first. And so we'll talk some pros and cons, and we'll let you guys make your own decisions at the end of the video, and we'll provide our perspective. So let's get to the
example number 1.
Let's get to the thievery.
All right, so probably this year's most egregious example is,
I don't know, it's
not even this year.
No.
This has been going on for a while. And what you'll find too is there's a common denominator here, and that is the JDM market. The JDM market is going to pop up a lot in these copies because they're coming up with these things overseas. They end up working really well. They end up becoming really popular. People from our side of the world, the US, ends up buying JDM baits, usually through a complicated,
risky,
different channels on the internet that we don't always feel so great about. You know, you go through Asian Portal or like AliExpress. Whatever, right? And not everybody's comfortable with that. Also, there's usually a limited stock. You got to pay potentially more shipping sometimes.
Maybe you get your information stolen and you lose the rest of your retirement savings. I don't know.
You never know, right? And I'm not saying that's always going to happen.
No.
It just can. It's always a risk on the internet. I get it. But you're going to see a lot of JDM baits getting copied here, right? And that's going to be the common thing.
And it's because in the JDM market, there's a ton of innovation coming out of there. A lot of that's because they fish highly pressured waters. Like all of their waters are highly pressured, and so they have to come up with, in order to be successful, new and different ways to attract fish. And so that's why you see like the Inuri or however you pronounce it rig that like looks like a snake.
Oh yeah,
which is insane. It was like, you need 7 straws of super glue to make this one work. Like, and then
it was very popular for 0.4 seconds.
Yeah, sure.
Nobody fishes that rig here. Nobody.
Yeah, not really. But they may, right? And then they have like the fuzzy dice looking thing that's like a little really heavy cube with all the hairs coming off of it, right? And that is nothing like what we fish, but it definitely works. And there's a million other examples of it, but that's why the JDM market has like sort of these new and different ways, and they're a lot more innovative than we are, frankly, because they are pushed into it because of the way that their fisheries operate. And so we end up stealing their ideas. So here are some examples. Number 1
would be the Megabass dark sleeper. And as I said, at first I said this year, it's actually been going on forever. I mean, you can get these like off-branded on Amazon, you can get them on Temu. I mean, we did, we'll show you one in a second, all over the place. But essentially what you're looking at is a little tiny swim bait. It's meant to be fished on the bottom. You get a heavy jig there. Do come in different weights, different sizes. You can get itty bitty versions of this as well. But it's the Megabass. Comes in at $5.99. It is made with your standard plastisol, right? So it's not invincible. In fact, we feel it's not very durable at all. we're certainly not alone, and there are also going to be people who say, I think they're extremely durable.
Yeah.
I think it depends on where you fish. I can say that if you fish this in a river or a rocky section of water, you're going to destroy it. The head will explode.
I think the tough part is that this paddle tail here at the back is obviously an integral part of the bait.
And if it comes off,
once this gets bit off, it's useless. Like you can't use it as a net. It literally is.
It essentially rolls after the tail comes off,
and it just doesn't work. So I think that's tough because these come in like a one pack.
Yeah.
Now you could argue that this is a copy of like Storm and all the other pre-rigged plastics that are out there. There's a whole bunch of pre-rigged swim baits that are out there, so you could argue, but this is a different version of it. It's designed differently. Yeah. This is unique, and you can tell it's unique because people have stolen the designs.
We'll also say that this is not a video that's going to do a drill down of the lineage of these baits. So if you know like the original, just call that out. We're just talking to what we know.
Yeah. So one example of the theft of this bait is
every off-branded version of it, period. So if you go to Temu, Amazon, etc., you're gonna see what looks exactly like it, and typically just has like the cheaper colorization of their whatever plastic they're using. It's usually a lot more rigid in my experience. I've bought several of these. I've got the Amazon ones, I've got the Temu ones. It tends to be a much more rigid plastic, which can lend itself well to durability, but not to action. You're still gonna get, you know, enough action that it can be effective. In colder water, it's going to be less effective. It just is what it is. It may be more durable, but the paint certainly is not.
Oh God, no.
As you can see, after several dinky bass, that's what happened with this one. We actually
This is one afternoon.
We did a Temu video on this. You can see us fish this. It didn't work all day, and we didn't catch anything, and it was still perfectly intact. And then we fished it for an hour on the way out. We were actually just drifting back to get off the water. I'd say Paul and I both fished this in different colors, and we started catching, which was cool. Like, so it can work for sure. But anyway, so we each caught 5, 6 fish, and this is what happened to it. So like the color, some people would argue color doesn't matter. Sure, that's fine. This is what they're going to look like after that.
But they cost $1.50, and in transit
it held up a lot better than the Megabass has.
Well, but in transit the tails were right angled. So I actually have a couple where the tails look like this. They were totally flat, and you had to like you have to either boil them in water or whatever. But they're only $1.50. So I think there is value in this bait, and the value proposition is I can get 4 of these for one of the Megabass. So that Megabass, if that tail gets broke off, you got to fish something else, unless you got 5 of those, in which case you paid for 5 of those. In this case, if one of these breaks, if the tail comes flat in transit, if the paint wears off where it doesn't catch fish anymore, I can just go grab another one, because if I spent the same amount of money buying one Megabass as I did on these, I could get 4 of these from one of those. So there is a value here. Now, these don't fish very well. They're not as good as the Megabass, period, the end. There's no argument whatsoever. You can't, I've done it, I've compared them.
These are not as good. Them.
You can catch on them,
100%.
So there is a value proposition here. Now, Z-Man has made a version of this too that they released last year, and it has a totally different value proposition. And that is, show them the gobius.
So this is the gobius, and the gobius is the same price as the dark sleeper. Now, being Z-Man, sometimes you can get some sales on Z-Man. In fact, I got this on sale, I think on the Tackle Warehouse before Christmas. It was like 25% off Black Friday. Yep. That's when I picked this up. So you can get these on sale from time to time. And I'm sure you can find sales on Megabass too. Difference is you got a LazTech, right? So they took this idea.
Well, let's call this out too. It's the exact same design. Yeah. Like the designs on all 3 of these are, this is the original. These are exactly the same. That's why we call this a copy. I mean, they are with some very, like the fins here are slightly different.
Subtle
but
difference.
I mean, it's a goby, and the face is so obviously goby that it's like, well, it's clearly a copy.
So main difference though is you get a LazTech material, so it's going to be much more durable. You still have your little weed guard, which is just this fin.
Same concept.
It doesn't work good on any of these models. The weed guard's whatever, it just kind of hides the hook.
It's there.
One big thing to call out though with the Z-Man is that you get the painted eyes instead of the hard like holographic eyes you get on the Megabass, because this is one of the issues you get with the Megabass Dark Sleeper, is those eyes will come off. As with any bait with eyes. I mean, jig eyes come off all the time, things like that, right? Is it an egregious example? Absolutely. This thing gets copied to death. Pros for the Z-Man, obviously it's ultra durable, so that's kind of a big win.
And that could be considered an innovation. So that's where we're talking about pros and cons. So like, what are the pros of like stealing a bait? One of the pros in this instance, I think is really obvious. By having the LazTech, you've taken someone else's design, design, and by taken I mean you thefted someone else's design, but you made a pretty significant change that I think you could argue is an improvement. Now, we've had some people say the Z-Man doesn't do as well in cold water. I haven't tested it, but sure, even if that's the case,
we'll see.
It's still different. So I think you can make an argument it's different. But it's 100% a theft. Like, they took a bait that's, and the other thing is the Megabass is super successful, so there's like a motivation to like steal that design. Because
people like this.
People like this a lot, and it sells really well. We can make our own, we'll make it a little bit different in our packaging, we will sell a lot, and we'll make some of that money. So again, we're looking for some pros. A pro to stealing someone else's design is if you can make a significant change that makes it different and offers a different value. So even Temu, right, in their really cheap one,
value of quantity,
they said, well, we'll take the design, we'll make it a little smaller, we'll make it out of crappier plastic, we'll paint it like a little crappier, but we'll charge you like a fifth the price. There's value there too.
There's value. There's value in the Megabass in that it's, well,
the best.
The OG, and it's got amazing action. There's value in the Z-Man in that it's ultra durable and is still giving you a very similar action and doing the same thing, serving the same purpose, but maybe it will last you longer. And that's gonna be true for a lot of these other things that we look at as well. So you guys let us know in the comments, who did it best, in your opinion?
Yeah.
Who are you grabbing if given the choice between those 3 different variations that we showed you?
Same with the rest of these, and we're not done either. There are more pros and cons. We're gonna get to them.
The next one we're gonna talk about is poop baits.
Also egregious.
Gravity baits. So we got 3 different examples here. The first one
is the
talk
OG.
about the OG, right? So we got the Depths Cover Scat. So again, coming from the JDM market. This is the original one that we fish, as well as far as I know, one of the originals. I'm pretty sure we had a comment in the last video.
It's okay, hold on. Before we get, it's the one that was copied. So that's all we're talking about. This is the one that was copied. Now,
there are different heavy gravity poop baits, etc. out there. There is a true original. I don't know what it is.
Can
you tell me?
I don't know the family tree of every bait that's ever been made.
It's not the lineage version.
So what is a poop bait or a gravity bait? It's basically in this case is like a sort of craw. It's a very dense plastic, so this is going to sink, and when it falls mostly horizontal with a little shimmy. You would think that doesn't make a difference. I'm here to tell you that this is different than almost anything else, and it actually fishes very well in a lot of different cases. So this is a very successful bait. I've had success on it personally.
Yep.
Jeff has as well. And
it's been a blast.
And it's weird to copy this because it's called the Cover Scat. So
it's literally a plastic piece of poop.
Plastic poop. So they're leaning into the poop joke.
Someone's like, let's go.
Because it looks like a turd. This is what a turd would look like. It's funny that when this was copied, they went with the same joke.
Literally the same exact design on both of these. One a little more egregious, we feel, than the other. But we got the Missile Baits Bomba, right? You can see exact same kind of shape. They're going to, of course, have Missile Baits colors, so it's going to be a little different in the color options there.
And the density is different. The softness is a little different. So,
and we tried every one of these types of heavy gravity baits.
All different kinds. We had 6 different kinds.
G-Crack, all of them. So now, you can see that video too.
And the reason I bring up the texture, why that matters, like this is a lot lighter, it's less dense, but it also is like a little bit, like the texture is just different. And the reason that matters is these are all expensive. None of these are inexpensive. These are all at least...
The Missile Baits is the cheapest.
But they're all at least $1 for one of these.
About,
And it's a flipping bait in a lot of instances, a heavy cover bait, which means it's getting abused. And when you set the hook, you are ripping that son of a gun, which means you're ripping these. Now, you can rotate these and do the best you can at trying to make them last long. But the nice thing about the Missile is it's one of the more durable ones that was out there. So it handles a little more abuse than the others.
And it was the least expensive one that we found coming into, I think it was one, if not the only one that was under $1 bait. Just under.
So that's where it's like, again, you've completely, I mean, this is theft. Like, let's not sugarcoat this. Like, you took this design and you copied it almost exactly, put your own spin on colors, but they did make some subtle changes that may make this more of a value than the original. Now, again, it's pros and cons.
And quantity.
It's pros and cons. And we're gonna, and this actually leads me to what I would consider to be, because it's hard to look at Megabass and be like, you're stealing from someone that's not making money, because we know they're making money, but
crushing it.
But sometimes these thefts, these like stolen designs come from someone who's like a smaller private company who's like just getting started, or is not nearly as big, or doesn't have a presence in the United States yet, and is even small in the JDM or some other market, and you're stealing that design, and you have basically, if they only have 1 or 2 designs, and this is the one that's gotten popular and exploded, and you stole that one, you've crippled that company. Because if you're a Berkley or you're a Missile Baits and you have mass distribution, you steal a design, it's everywhere right when this bait gets released.
Yeah.
And someone may not even know or ever find out that this was like a smaller company. So you may have just deleted that company off the map. And that, I think, is where when designs get stolen, that's where people get genuinely upset. And I think there's a legitimate gripe, because you got big company X ripping off the design and the ingenuity and the know-how of a small company. That hurts. Ouch. To me, that's a massive con.
Yeah, and I'll also say too, I would love to just see more innovation, right? Like as much innovation as possible. Innovation is expensive for a company.
You want to see it get rewarded.
Yeah.
I want to see the person who came up with this design get the fruits of their ingenuity, not
versus Control-C, Control-V, copy-paste.
Yeah, like I don't want to see big company
You're getting
X
rewarded for just being able to mass
get that.
produce
That's
it.
not cool.
Yep. All right, so the more egregious we feel, because it's down to the T, like the same design except for one
little fin,
is the Spro Craw Nugget. So this is also the most expensive next to the Fish Arrow, I believe, that we tested out in terms of the gravity baits. So the main difference is they've got these little fins off the back. You know, it's supposed to give it a little more drifting action.
It's different.
It does fall a little. It's subtle. It's so subtle, a little different. And then they made their eyes bigger, and that's it.
Okay.
But they even have the same exact hook keeper, which is this little notch that you see right there. The knob.
The same.
The texture is basically the same. This also had the worst durability and the worst quantity, which made it the most expensive per bait. This was well over $1. It's a quantity of 4 that you get in this. 4. The Bomba came with 6, and the depths, I think, came with 7. Anyways, the depths came with a reasonable amount as well.
We did a full breakdown on this, so if you want to see that video, just go look back through our video log, and you'll find like poop baits on there.
You'll find it. There you go. What are the value propositions here? I think,
they're all the
personally,
same.
They all fish very similar. But I actually enjoyed the depths the most, next to the Yama Tanuki, which is from Gary Yamamoto. That was actually our favorite. And we called it out in that video.
Arguably is the most different as well. It
does
the same thing,
tail
but it has a little tail, and it just fishes different. It's different than all the other ones.
Which is why it's not up here.
But it's a gravity bait, and it was stolen, so
technically
it's
a gravity bait.
But like that's where there's a fine line, I feel like, where is it theft if it's just like you can't copy, you can only copy fish so many ways. Like they have heads and tails and fins. Like how many ways can you copy? And where it's like, well, I was copying a thing that's already out in the world. It's a fish.
You make a skitter lizard.
Okay, you could go that route. That is
true innovation.
It is innovation. It's different. So with the Yama Tanuki, this is a technique that they've said, we are going to make a version of this, like we're going to make a worm. It's going to be different, and we're going to do our version of it. So there's a lot of worms out there, but some of them are gigantic. A 5-inch worm is not the same as a 10-inch worm, even though they're both worms. I don't see that as much as like theft of design. Same with the Yama Tanuki. It is very close, but it is different, and it fishes differently because the design is different. So I put the Yama Tanuki in innovating on a different technique, which we'll show you the Yama Tanuki here in a second.
There you go. It's got this tail.
I think these are markedly different, but they are the same technique. So in this instance, I look at this as making a different worm, or in this instance, a different poop bait, instead of just straight up copying the exact same. So I give them the edge, but it's tricky, right? It's a little tricky because...
So where's the line?
Where's the line between, okay, I just stole it and then I improved upon it. And I think the gobius there's an argument to be made that by making it with Z-Man, their Elastec, they've improved upon another design. Now, they stole it exactly, don't love that, but, you know, it's a swim bait.
So you guys let us know in the comments, where's the line with copying baits? What are we okay with? Are we okay? I mean, you could be okay with all of it.
You can be okay with anything, yeah.
Doesn't even matter. Okay, there were a couple bad ones that came out of ICAST this year that a lot of people got up in arms about. One of them, we don't have either of these baits because they're both sold out and I can't find them. But JDM, you've got the Flag swim bait.
Here it is.
Oh God, watch out. So that is a single jointed soft plastic glide. This is a JDM bait. Really great bait. A lot of people love it. Been able to get it to the States. Now, it's very hard to find. Right? It can be very difficult to find. It's much more expensive than the copy bait, which is this, the Nessie. That was Berkley. Which is this, the Berkley Nessie. So the Nessie, main difference you'll see is the tail. Other than that, it's about exactly the same. There's these little like horizontal fins towards the back of the tail that hopefully make it glide better. Anyways, it's like pretty much exactly the same. So that was an egregious one.
Small operator, gigantic company. With a big spokesperson pushing it hard, and they put their name on it, and then they're just like, "We did it! Look at us go!" And like that's where people get upset, because that's just straight theft, and that is hurting a much smaller operator.
So that was a bad one. We couldn't get either. The Nessie sold out everywhere.
Here's another one.
Eventually, we'll get it. The next one though was OSP versus Crush City, which is Rapala. If you guys don't know,
is Rapala big?
Rapala's itty bitty. It's probably the smallest company in fishing. No, it's gigantic. So we got OSP right here.
Yep.
This is the Do Live or D'Olive Beaver. I think it's the Do Live. Anyways, so there you go. I got this in green pumpkin and chartreuse. And I got the Crush City in green pumpkin and chartreuse. You can see it's got these big old flaps down here, some long antennae, and then some little legs kicking off the back. It's got great action. A lot of people have been fishing this for a long time. Love it.
Crush City is the exact same thing. It even comes in the same colors.
It comes in the same colors. Here's a green pumpkin chartreuse with the peppered black flakes in there too. The antennae are a little bit shorter, but the big old honking flaps are exactly the same, and then you got legs, and then the only other main difference is you can see like this little rib section in the middle versus where it's slightly smooth.
But the main difference is the appendages down at the bottom, and they've copied the profile exactly. I mean, there's no getting around it. The colors are even the same.
You can't tell me these don't look exactly the same. Oh, the legs go the other way.
Whatever, dude. Here's another version. So this is, I mean, have you guys ever heard of this before? This is the Mag Draft from Megabass. It's expensive, it's great, people love it. It's probably one of the most well-known swim baits with the treble hook underneath that's out there. And then this is the Berkeley Cull Shad. It has some major differences. The way the hook attaches is the biggest one. This one is a clip. The Mag Draft, why is it called the Mag Draft? Because there's a magnet in there that holds that hook on there. That's the main difference though. These are essentially identical. These are extremely similar. Here's another one. This one has been like tale as old as time. The Whopper Plopper, right? A very unique bait. This is there was nothing else like it that I know of. So River to Sea is making the Whopper Plopper. It's an amazing topwater. Berkeley copied it exactly. They made the El Chapo. Is it El Chapo or just the Chapo?
The Chapo.
I have El Chapo from the song stuck in my head.
El Chapo.
Berkeley has the Chapo, which is the exact same bait. I mean, it's the tail scoop is a little different.
Hang on. Everybody's gonna argue it makes a different sound.
It does. It's very slight. It's very slight, but to think that this isn't the same thing in a direct theft is
the Whopper Plopper is more subtle.
Okay.
The Chapo is.
It is. It's a little more aggressive.
Banging down the door.
And then this is the Temu version.
This is from Temu.
This is a couple of bucks. So and the River to Sea is very expensive. So it used to be like almost $20 for one of them. Now it's more in like the $15 range, but it's still very expensive. The Chapo's a little cheaper. There was an insane copy by Guggen. They have the Revolver. Is that what it is?
Yeah, so the Revolver moved the prop tail to the middle.
To the belly.
Yeah,
but like,
that was the main difference.
Like, there's a massive prop topwater, and they're all shaped the same.
One more big one that came out of this year, not to bring Z-Man back in. Personally, I love Z-Man.
I love Z-Man.
Like almost everything that they make, I love.
Yeah.
So this is, just.
It is what it is. These are factual statements.
So this is the Huddleston. You'll know a Huddleston when you see this tail. It's a classic swim bait. Everybody who loves swim bait fishing loves these things. This is the 38 Weedless Special Deluxe, I believe.
Deluxe, yep.
So this thing is really awesome, just fishing down in the bottom around cover. It's the weedless variation. So you've probably seen like the pre-rig is the most obvious version. You see that hook coming off the top. The exact same bait came out this year, which is the Moleton from Z-Man. It looks like this. I don't have one.
No.
Because I couldn't get it in time. But it does exist. It has the same tail. It's Elastec.
It's the exact same tail.
So imagine, now these are not cheap.
No.
These are expensive. They're very good, but they're very expensive.
They're in the $40 range?
They're a more durable plastic, but they're not invincible. They will fall apart at some point in time. Having an Elastec version is kind of like having the Gobius versus the Dark Sleeper. I mean, the value is the durability. Record scratch. Oopsie daisies, we made a boo-boo. So Not 100% a boo-boo, but a little bit of a boo-boo.
No. Well, I guess we have to change things up a little bit. So, we were just talking about how the moleton is basically a direct copy of the Huddleston, and how I don't really love that. It doesn't feel very great.
And we have Huddlestons, but we didn't have molotons. But guess what? Z-Man sent us a bunch. No joke. So in an unsponsored video that you'll see in the future here, they sent us some free stuff to test out. We give our honest opinions on those. And in that batch, they gave us a bunch of moleton LTs.
What does LT stand for?
I didn't know at the time or think about it, or I guess look at enough of their content to really get into this, but it stands for line through. So what makes this different and unique from the Huddleston is this right here. The gosh dang hook comes out. So this is the pre-rigged model. It's a line through bait. There's actually a hole right there, a little plastic tube that you feed your line through, comes out the back right there. You tie it to this hook. You shove the hook back into your bait very easily, and you have now this indestructible Elastec version of essentially what like the Huddleston bait is. The cool thing about this is when you get bit, this hook comes out, you're gonna preserve this swim bait much longer because it's not getting smacked around as much. It slides up the line. Or shredded. And because all that the fish has is this hook, they have no leverage. So you're gonna land more fish versus having a heavy swim bait that they can just shake pretty easily or knock off when you get them in the net or close to the boat. And if they're still hooked when you get to the net, it gets destroyed. So we don't want that either. So this ended up being like kind of a freaking cool thing. Also, it has a little rattle in it, which is insane. So yeah, it's not the same. It still has the same tail, right?
Which is like sort of one of the trademark parts of the Huddleston. Now the Huddleston is a soft plastic and it's very unique. It's super plush. It's meant to be run exclusively, well, for the most part, exclusively slow rolled on the bottom. And this is markedly different. Once you throw Z-Man Elastec into the mix, it's just going to be totally different, which is why, when it comes to like the gobius, yes, is the design an exact knockoff? Yes, but once you add the Z-Man Elastec, it's bringing a lot more to the table. And Z-Man they can charge less because they're a much bigger company. So you could definitely make an argument that yes, we stole something that a lot of people like about a bait that's made by a small manufacturer. Don't love that, but we did make some big changes. So you could make the argument that this is different enough to not be a copy. Fully respect that. There's a broad range of opinions on there on what does and does not constitute as theft. You can't trademark any of these things, right? No one can trademark anything.
As far as I know.
Technically, you didn't copy anything, right? You can't patent it. But that being said, we call a spade a spade. Theft is theft. It is what it is. If you stole a design, you stole a design. So want to see your opinion on it, but we wanted to be clear and transparent with you guys. When we learn things, we'll make changes and we'll let you guys know every single time. We want to be honest with you, and this is something that we saw that we thought made enough of a difference to include in this video.
So walk it back, walk it back.
And back to your regularly scheduled video. So you've seen all the examples, you get the idea. Now, the last argument I want to make is one that a lot of people make. They say, who cares? I want the cheapest one. Or they say, who cares if someone stole a design? It was gonna happen anyways.
Yeah.
First of all,
it just is what it is.
In my opinion,
we just said that actually.
And
I guess that's where we live.
Yeah, and I think, in my opinion, I don't think that's a valid argument. Like, just because someone could do it and you think that someone is gonna do it, then it's okay to be done. Like, I think
you know what argument it is?
What?
They're all taking steroids, so we need to take steroids.
That's
too.
ridiculous.
It's sports, baby.
It's not. That's like it's a ridiculous argument. Like
everyone's doing it.
Everyone's gonna do it, so I should do it. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Or it's someone's gonna do it, I should be the one to do it. That
but
I don't.
But it's what our society promotes, unfortunately.
I don't think that's a good argument. You can your own opinion on it. Leave a comment down below if you think that is a good argument. I'd like to hear more about it. I don't think it is. Is this the end of fishing? Like, no, it's not. No. It's really not. In my opinion,
and this won't stop either.
No, this is because people are going to do it.
Like, we're not going to stop
until there's like a lawsuit that, where someone crushes someone, right?
But is Rapala going to get sued by OSP?
I'm just saying, until it happens,
don't think so.
No. And so now the same thing happens in fishing gear. We see this with rods, we see this with reels, we see this all over the place. We see this in other industries too. Fishing is not necessarily unique, but the reason I tend to look at this as more negative is because when you steal a bait, a large manufacturer from a small, you've crippled this industry's ability to grow bottom up. So like the ability for like a Beast Coast jigs to continue to grow when they are it's really,
capitalism.
It's capitalism. When it's hard to grow in this market and become a big player like quickly, like getting companies like 6th Sense that grow out of nowhere and make all these awesome baits, it's really hard, and it becomes a lot harder and more rare when someone can just go, bait stolen, right? And then they just do the same thing and then they make it cheaper because they're bigger and they can afford it. So
wait up, shut up and fish. fish. Do you guys remember that?
That's the worst.
I gotta call it out. I gotta call it out.
Yeah,
you guys remember when Milliken got roasted for this too, which was the crazy part about it. That's the part where I'm like, there's a huge gamut of the community that's like, it's just gonna happen. Deal with it. Like at least we get baits. So if you guys don't remember, this is a couple years ago. Ben Milliken, 6 Cents Fishing versus Guggen Squad. Go back and look it up. You'll see it.
The old days.
They don't talk about it anymore. Probably via cease and desist. But basically, Guggen Squad made the exact same bait, and I'm not kidding. The exact same bait.
I watched the video where he cut them open and was like, "These are the same."
He cut the dang baits apart, man. He showed the internals. The internals were exactly the same. There was not even a subtle difference. Exactly the same, just Guggen Squad colors. So he called it out. He got lambasted in his comments. It was like 50-50. A lot of people were like, "That's ridiculous, Team 6 Cents," and a lot of people were like, "Who cares, Team Guggen Squad?" And it just happened, and then it got swept under the rug, probably, like I said, because of a cease and desist. And then we just moved on. Ben was like, "This isn't worth it to me," and Guggen Squad was like, "We don't care." And then
we got your baits.
Catchco came out with a sticker that said "Shut up and fish" based on that. It was like the most, using the word again, egregious example of the battle of the copies. It was crazy. So,
but only the person that steals someone else's design would say "Shut up and fish." The person.
It happened this year. So like it happened.
I think it was Wheeler.
I think it was Jacob Wheeler, and it happened in comments that you'll never find anymore. They're probably all gone. But they came out with the Bronco bug. They were talking about it. A lot of people knowing the Do Live Beaver were like, "That is an OSP bait. That's a copy. This is BS."
Who said "Shut up and fish"?
Wheeler said "Shut up and fish." Essentially, it's not. I'm paraphrasing. He didn't say exactly that, but there were battles, baby.
Let us know what you think. There's a lot of pros and cons here, right? The consumer sometimes wins when people steal. I get that. I don't think that's a valid outcome. I'd rather see the small company continue to grow and offer that, whatever they own, that proprietary deal, or offer that cheaper later, right? I want to see the innovator win eventually. That's what I want to see. I want to know what you guys think of this one. Look, there's certainly pros and cons. We get that. So let us know what you think.
Thanks so much for watching our rants. I think this one's going to be split in the comments. I don't know about you.
I agree.
I wish it wasn't, but it is.
If you would egregiously smash that like button and aggressively bang the notification bell, we would really appreciate it.
We're back. Thank you guys for watching this video. We'll catch you on the next one. All right, bye.